SMT Nation, we back. Nation, Dish just reported their quarterly earnings, and it was atrocious. The TV business is failing. Customers are leaving. They're disconnecting. I think they had like 500,000 disconnects on pay TV. Also, the cyber attack, ransomware attack that happened during Q1. There's more mobile losses. Things have been pretty bad, but we're still rooting for them, and we're looking to see if they can stir things up in the market. I still follow them. I find them very interesting in the marketplace, so long as they can actually serve customers and become a legitimate retail option for wireless consumers. So we cover them here on the channel. All right, so in this video, we're going to discuss a bunch of things from the earnings report, disclosures from the president, Charlie Ergen, at Dish Network, and we'll see if we can make some sense out of the current state of Dish and what direction they'll be moving in the future. All right, so link in the description for this article from Monica Alvin, Fierce Wireless. You guys can check it out on your own, all the details. And also in the description is the Real SMT Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to support your creators directly. That's one way to do it. You can also support us by supporting our partner, Mint Mobile. Use the partner link that's in the description. You'll save money, and you'll be helping out the channel in the process. They just increased all the data allotments on all their plans, and they didn't even touch pricing. Great value, legendary customer care. That's what you get from our partner, Mint Mobile. Use the partner link in the description. All right, so Charlie Ergen, the Dish Network president, and by the way, owns a ton of shares in the company, probably a majority of shares. Anyways, as a chairman, he really is the main decision maker for all their corporate decisions, all their business decisions. All right, one of the things that he was asked about was their financial situation and the liquidity of the company, and he acknowledged it. They have a really hard time raising capital, and there's multiple reasons for that. You got things like credit ratings, you got things like debt ratios, and there's all types of reasons why banks and lenders are going to either give you money that you require on a loan or not. And one of the things that we know that Dish has is assets when it comes to spectrum. But the problem is you're going to take your main asset, which is your spectrum, and put cash up against it to get loans. I feel like that's a very risky proposition. Even the most confident of business people would probably not want to do that, because you're basically asking for bankruptcy and failure should things not work out. And so he spoke to that, and he mentioned, we're asset rich, and we look at all the different levers that we have. They really don't have much. They really don't. The TV business is a failure. The wireless business is having a rough time of it, especially Boost Mobile continuing to lose customers. Their ARPU continues to dip. So there's really nothing they could hang their head on currently as it stands. We'll see if that can change in the future, but it doesn't help that their executives keep leaving the company, right? So there's a bunch of problems there. Don't forget that, people see Dish as spectrum hoarders, speculators, litigate rather than innovate. And of course, we don't really see proper retail strategy going on with Dish. We do see the network being built. I think we can all acknowledge that. But we don't see the retail strategy, so we don't see where they're going. It's not very, very clear. Now, when it comes to margin of error from out of the article, they definitely don't have much margin of error. It's a very cutthroat business. You see what Verizon is trying to do to try to grow. You see what AT&T and T-Mobile are doing. They're all trying to grow. They're all trying to make more money, improve margins, and it's just very, very difficult. Now, with respect to the network side, we covered this in a previous video. Going to reach the 70% of the U.S. POPs covered by June 2023. All signs indicate that they are going to get there. They've started construction on 18,000 sites, and they need about 16,000, according to them, to hit their deadline and their requirement. So they should have more than enough. So that's really encouraging. So they're going to hit the 70% of the U.S. POPs with the 600 megahertz licenses. They've got additional requirements for the AWS bands. I should say, the N70, N66 piece. They've got to do that. And they've got some other requirements to hit later on in 2025 as well. There's fines associated with each of these. I'm sure they'd rather not get fined and dinged. But one of the things that I found interesting in commentary about the 800 megahertz spectrum, which they would be provided the opportunity to purchase from T-Mobile if they so choose, and that's where I think the money comes into play. We were talking about the capital raised in the previous part of this, this monologue. And, the commentary is pretty clear. They need $3.5 billion to send over to T-Mobile for that spectrum from Sprint. And I don't think they really have it. Now, could they do it? Could they find a way to make the $3.5 billion happen? I think they will, if they really wanted to. But they might just let it go. Right? They might just let it go, and the penalty for not buying it from T-Mobile, I think, is $72 million. That's a much smaller number, less of a hit than the $3.5 billion it may take to raise to purchase it outright. And then they also spoke to some more spectrum in the 12 gigahertz frequency. Obviously, Dish is pretty pissed off. It won't be put to mobile use. It's going to be mostly focused on fixed wireless access and home broadband. But, look, that's going to be better for consumers in the long term. I think 12 gigahertz seems like a fitting frequency for use, with fixed wireless access and closing that digital divide and giving people more high-speed broadband options. Now, the last thing I'll leave you with, and this kind of goes to the spending piece, was commentary about CapEx, capital expenditure, spending on the network. And Charlie Ergen said that they're going to be slowing down the network spend, which I think it's not really an option. They simply don't generate the revenue. When we look at the very minimal gains they get in the Project Genesis beta, and the Boost Infinite growth is very slow, and we see losses in Boost Mobile, how do you continue to dump billions of dollars into the network if it's not generating the ROIC and the return on invested capital? Now, he'll say things like we're well on our way and all that's great. You look at the executives, but they simply could not sustain dumping all this money into the network until they get a return. And they got to do a better job of operating in retail. That's really the key. I've kind of found myself wondering, where's Dish's presence? What Dish Wireless commercials have you seen? How aggressive has Boost Mobile been? How effective have they been? We've seen their problems with how they handled the ransomware attack, and people couldn't pay their bills and they were getting disconnected, failed promises of a free month of service and restoration. There have been so many things about it, and then the pay TV losses. The whole company just seems disjointed, right? They got a lot stacked up against them. I don't need to pour it out in this video, right? But it goes to show you that they're not susceptible, or they're not unsusceptible to the same things the other carriers are, which is, the same concerns about the spending. All right. I don't know how bad that's going to hurt them with respect to hitting the marks in 2024 and 2025 for the network build, but clearly they are conscious and aware that the CapEx is going to have to slow, right? So they hit their first mark, then they're going to probably have to very diligently and very carefully try to get to the next mark in 2024. That's the Dish update for you guys here. Offer me your comments down in the comments section on any of the topics that we discussed down below. Let me know your concerns about Dish. What do you think is the highest priority for them? Let me know if you think that they are going to be a legitimate, viable player. They're as close as they've ever been, but people still have their doubts, obviously, and I get it. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on this. You all the voice of the people, the SMT Nation. Let your voice be heard.